Hello, I'm Bernard Norcott-Mahany. I work at the Blueford branch of the Kansas City Public Library. April is National Poetry Month, and for April of 2025, I am reading selections from Spoon River Anthology by Edgar Lee Masters. This was a collection of poems that Masters published in 1915. They had previously been published as individual poems in the year before. The premise of the book is that we are to imagine ourselves in Spoon River, Illinois, which is an imaginary city. The graveyard for Spoon River is the hill, and that we are on the hill wandering around the graves, and we stop at various tombstones. We see the names, and then the people there speak to us from the beyond. So each day I'm reading 3 or 4 poems, and that will not get us through the entirety of the book, but it will get us through a chunk of the book by the end of April. So today we're looking at Harold Arnett, Margaret Fuller Slack, and George Trimble. Harold Arnett. I leaned against the mantel, sick, thinking of my failure, looking into the abysm, weak from the noonday heat. A church bell sounded mournfully far away. I heard the cry of a baby and the coughing of John Yarnell, bedridden, feverish, dying. Then the violent voice of my wife, "Watch out, the potatoes are burning." I smelled them. Then there was irresistible disgust. I pulled the trigger, blackness, light, unspeakable regret, fumbling for the world again, too late. Thus I came here, with lungs for breathing. One cannot breathe here with lungs, though one must breathe, or what use is it to rid oneself of the world when no soul may ever escape the eternal destiny of life? So here we've got a guy apparently tending for someone who was quite sick, felt himself sick, had a nagging wife, and committed suicide. Margaret Fuller Slack. I would have been as great as George Eliot, but for an untoward fate. For look at the photograph of me made by Pennewitt, chin resting on hand and deep-set eyes, gray too and far-searching. But there was the old problem. Should it be celibacy, matrimony, or unchastity? Then John Slack, the rich druggist, wooed me, luring me with the promise of leisure for my novel. And I married him, giving birth to 8 children, and had no time to write. It was all over with me anyway, when I ran the needle in my hand while washing the baby's things, and died from lockjaw, an ironical death. Hear me, ambitious souls. Sex is the curse of life. So here we have a woman who had hoped to be a great novelist like George Eliot, but instead ended up getting married, had 8 kids, and ended up, getting tetanus and dying from that. George Trimble. Do you remember when I stood on the steps of the courthouse and talked free silver and the single tax of Henry George? Then do you remember that when the peerless leader lost the first battle, I began to talk prohibition and became active in the church? That was due to my wife, who pictured to me my destruction if I did not prove my morality to the people. Well, she ruined me, for the radicals grew suspicious of me, and the conservatives were never sure of me, and here I lie, unwept of all. So here we have a guy who was involved in politics on both sides of the equation, but and in a sense he went into that largely because of his wife nagging him, and of course now he doesn't have any sort of friends or allies who mourn for his loss. So that was Harold Arnett, Margaret Fuller Slack, and George Trimble.